All right, so where did Lulu come from? Okay, so I'll give you a shorter version of that. When I was in the open source software business with Red Hat, one of the concerns was always that Red Hat worked with thousands of engineering teams across the internet in order to build Red Hat Linux. It was a form of barter system, but we didn't actually contribute dollars back to the Apache Foundation or back to the SendMail team. What we contributed was software back to them. We got a megabyte worth of software from some of these teams, and we gave back a gigabyte worth of completely engineered, multitasking, multi-user Red Hat Linux operating system. Most of these teams were very happy with that relationship. But it still worried me as the CEO, when I was CEO at Red Hat, how sustainable that was, and how do I help the engineers at SendMail and these sort of people. And when I looked at, after I left Red Hat, because Red Hat is now a 2,000 person organization with $500 million worth of sales, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'd never worked for a company as big as Red Hat is today, much less managed one. So we recruited a brilliant management team led by Matthew Zulik. And I'd go on to my next entrepreneurial project. And the idea was, how do I solve that problem on behalf of creators? The internet is this great tool for giving things away. YouTube allows you to give away your videos. You, on your own website, can give away whatever you like. What it wasn't so good at was enabling people to sell the work that they were creating. And that was the inspiration behind Lulu, is could we create a marketplace for digital content so that the engineers at SendMail or the next Charles Dickens or the next technical writer, when he wrote his Linux documentation project, might choose to both give it away and offer it for sale to the marketplace, thereby collecting enough money from their work that they could continue to do more and better work in the open source space or in the entertainment space or in the video space. But that was the inspiration of Lulu.
Can you give us any numbers about the Italian market?
Lulu is doing remarkably well everywhere. We are just tickled pink is the expression in English. With the success we've had, and in Italy Lulu is going as well as anywhere else on the planet. In other words, better than most places. Italians love to publish. Italians are less concerned about making a mistake than they are, and so that they're willing to publish their work even if they might be criticized for it. In other markets, we find the market is quite conservative, and people don't want to publish things themselves because they worry about making a mistake. So Italians love Lulu, and Lulu loves Italy at this point. I was here this time last year, and we had to scramble to try and find an example of an Italian book on Lulu. Today, we are now seeing, well, literally just this last week, we had 402 new books and documents and videos published on Lulu this week alone in the last 7 days. We've had 30,000 unique Italian visitors to Lulu in the last 7 days. And these numbers are continuing to accelerate very quickly. So we're thrilled with how well our business is building in Italy.
What do you think about high culture tradition, the publishing system? Is there a noise on the web, a decadence of the standards? This is the user-generated content dilemma.
Okay, there's two different questions there, and let me separate them. The first is disintermediation. What are we going to do to the publishing industry? And the second is standards. How do we know that what is being published on Lulu is any good if there are no controls? So let me take them in order. We don't think we're disintermediating anyone. Technically, yes, but let me be precise. We think the existing publishing industry, Mondadori and the other big Italian publishers, provide an essential service. They do something of great value for both the author community and the reader community in Italy. And we don't think we're going to hurt their business even a little bit. if we are wildly successful, and of course we would love to be wildly successful, we might end up someday looking like eBay compared to the auction industry. And the auction industry that existed prior to eBay, despite the fact that last year there were $60 billion worth, that's what, 50 billion euros of transactions that occurred through eBay last year alone. But yet Christie's and Sotheby's and all the other auction houses are doing every bit as well as they did before eBay even existed. In fact, most of them are doing much better. And the reason for it is what Christie's and Sotheby's do is not what eBay does. eBay has enabled a whole marketplace to develop that simply wasn't possible before eBay. So they didn't take the sale of Picassos away from Sotheby's. They enabled you and I to sell our old typewriters in our attics or in our basements to someone who needed an old typewriter, or they enabled someone who had excess computer equipment to sell that computer to someone who needed the extra computer equipment. They didn't reduce the sale of computer equipment, they just made the market more efficient. We think the same opportunity is going to be true for all of those authors who had something valuable to say, and all of those consumers of content who are interested in what those authors have to say, but who are not J.K. Rowling's and Harry Potter. They're not going to sell 1 million copies of one title. In fact, we think our business is exactly the opposite of the Harry Potter phenomenon. Instead of our authors selling 1 million titles, having a few authors selling 1 million titles each, Lulu will have 1 million authors selling 1,000 copies each. And we'll end up with a very large market serving all of those authors who are only going to sell a few thousand titles. These are authors the existing publishing industry is not only not capable of serving, they just don't want to serve them.
Okay, so this is a long tail win-win situation.
It is exactly the long tail. In fact, Chris Anderson, the author of The Long Tail, included Lulu in his book, in part because he thought Lulu was intriguing in that the concept behind The Long Tail is that sometime a product was popular. So in movies, you have Pirates of the Caribbean as a popular movie, but the Pirates of the Caribbean from 20 years ago. Let's take a break.
So this is a long tail win-win situation, but my question is, the more the published the content, the more difficult it is to choose, to pick the good titles. So my question is, your bedside reading is being printed by Lulu. What is the title? Who is the author? How did you get to choose it?
Okay, the trick to user-generated content is the users will also rate the content. So the way you will find the best content on Lulu is other users will, by rating the content on Lulu, in effect inform you. This is how Amazon helps with their rating and their if you liked this, then you will like that kind of service. It's a user-generated content phenomenon. We do the same thing. We find out about the books that are the best written books and that are the most popular simply by watching a combination of how those books are being rated by other readers and how popular those books are in sales. And by watching those two pieces of data and linking them together, we're able to tell our marketplace which books have higher value and which books are maybe a more narrowly focused title.
So what's Bob Young editor pick in your catalog?
I read too many of the Lulu books. My favorite all-time Lulu book I will speak to, because I'm a bit of a romantic at heart. And we are in Italy, where romantics are, it's one of the things I enjoy about my visits to Italy. A great book of an author who wrote a book with an audience, he had exactly one person he wrote the book for, and it was the girl he was trying to get to marry him. The book is called 50 Reasons You Should Marry Me and 51 Reasons Why I Should Marry You. And apparently was successful. The fellow was in fact able to convince his girlfriend for whom he wrote this book to marry him, and I presume they're now living happily ever after.
Okay, thanks Bob.
Thank you very much.